In 1990, Samuel Noah Kramer, the world's leading expert on ancient Sumer, who spent 60 years translating cuneiform tablets, published his final work before dying. In it, he admitted something that contradicted everything mainstream archaeology teaches. The Sumerians didn't evolve their civilization gradually. They appeared suddenly, fully formed, with advanced knowledge that shouldn't have existed 6,000 years ago. Kramer translated over 5,000 Sumerian clay tablets. He knew their language better than anyone in modern history. And his final conclusion was that Sumerian civilization represented a discontinuity, a break from the expected pattern of human development that archaeology still can't explain. Here's what Kramer revealed about the Sumerians that changes everything we think we know about the origins of civilization. Kramer documented between 4,500 BCE and 3,500 BCE. Humans in Mesopotamia lived in simple agricultural villages with mud huts, basic pottery and stone tools, standard Neolithic culture. Bronze metallurgy, writing, mathematics, astronomy, complex architecture, and organized government. All at once, within a single generation. Civilizations develop gradually. You don't jump from mud huts to ziggurats in 100 years. Technology builds incrementally. Basic agriculture, then irrigation, then writing develops slowly over millennia. The Egyptians took 1,000 years to develop from simple settlements to pyramid-building civilization. The Indus Valley civilization evolved over 2,000 years. The Sumerians? They appeared to skip the developmental stages entirely. In his 1981 book, History Begins at Sumer, later expanded in 1990, Kramer wrote that Sumerian civilization appeared as if from nowhere with a sudden flowering that had no archaeological precursor. He spent decades looking for the transitional stages, the gradual development from primitive to advanced. He never found it. The Sumerians were just suddenly there, fully formed. They had mathematical knowledge that wouldn't be discovered for 3,000 more years. Kramer found in the tablets. The Sumerians used base 60 mathematics, the sexagesimal system with sophisticated understanding of geometry, algebraic equations, and astronomical calculations. They calculated the exact length of the lunar month to within seconds of modern measurements. They knew the Earth was spherical 2,500 years before Greeks figured it out. They had multiplication tables, division algorithms, and square root approximations. Mathematics develops from practical need. You count sheep, then develop addition. Eventually, you need multiplication for larger calculations. Complex geometry comes from architecture and surveying over centuries of refinement. The Sumerians had advanced mathematics from day one of their written records. There's no evidence of developmental stages, no simple counting systems that evolved into complex math. They started with the complex system complete, but here's what haunted Kramer. The Sumerian mathematical texts show no trial and error. No wrong approaches that were later corrected. No simpler systems that evolved into more sophisticated ones. The mathematics appears complete and correct from the earliest tablets. As if someone already knew the answers and simply wrote them down. Their astronomy was more accurate than anything until the 1800s. The Sumerians knew about planets that can't be seen with the naked eye. They had accurate orbital period calculations for visible planets. They understood precession of the equinoxes, the 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis, which wasn't discovered by modern astronomy until 1687. They described the solar system's structure in ways that match modern understanding. One-cylinder seal, catalog number VA243 at the Berlin Museum, shows a star symbol surrounded by what appears to be planets in orbital positions. One of these representations is larger than the others and separated from the group, potentially describing Jupiter or Saturn's actual relative size and orbital distance. The Sumerians had no telescopes. They shouldn't have known any of this. In his last interviews before his death, In 1990, Kramer stated that Sumerian astronomical knowledge exceeds what should have been possible through naked eye observation alone, and that their cosmology was suspiciously accurate for Bronze Age civilization. He stopped short of explaining how they obtained this knowledge, but he admitted they had information they shouldn't have possessed. Sumerian texts described the Anunnaki beings they claimed came from the heavens, using flying vehicles, weapons that shoot fire and lightning, and objects that shine like the sun at night. Modern translations by Kramer and others reveal descriptions of technology that don't match Bronze Age reality. The Epic of Etana describes a flight to the heavens where the narrator looks down and sees Earth shrinking beneath them. First the land becomes like bread, then like a garden, then like a threshing floor, until finally the Earth appears as a distant ball. This is an accurate description of what Earth looks like during atmospheric ascent. No Bronze Age human should have known this. In his annotations on the Etana epic, Kramer wrote that the description is curiously accurate to actual flight experience, and that ancient people with no concept of Earth as a sphere shouldn't have been able to imagine this perspective. He didn't claim it proved ancient flight, but he noted the text describes something its authors shouldn't have been capable of imagining. Sumerian is a language isolate. It has no relationship to any other known language family. It's not Semitic, not Indo-European, not related to any surrounding languages. It appears fully formed with complex grammar, extensive vocabulary, and sophisticated literary structure from the first written records. Languages evolve. They borrow from neighbors. They show developmental stages. We can trace how Latin became French, Spanish, and Italian. We can see how Old English became modern English. Sumerian has none of this. No parent language. No related languages. No simpler predecessor stage. It's just there, complete, with no evolutionary trail. After 60 years studying Sumerian, Kramer wrote in his final work that the language's isolation and complexity suggest an origin outside the normal patterns of language development. He didn't elaborate on what that meant, but he acknowledged the linguistic evidence didn't fit standard models. The conventional story says Sumerians were just early people who happened to develop civilization first. They had the right geography, rivers, fertile land, so they advanced faster than others. Their knowledge came from observation and gradual innovation over time. The Sumerians appeared suddenly without developmental precursors. Their mathematics was too advanced for their era. Their astronomy exceeded what naked eye observation could achieve. Their technology descriptions don't match Bronze Age capabilities. Their language has no origin. The evidence doesn't support gradual development. It suggests a discontinuity in the archaeological record. In a 1989 interview, 1 year before his death, Kramer was asked directly, "Do you believe Sumerian civilization developed naturally?" His response, "I believe the evidence shows they possess knowledge beyond what we can explain through conventional archaeological models. Where that knowledge came from, I cannot say, but it came from somewhere." He never said aliens. He never claimed ancient astronauts or lost advanced civilizations. But he spent his entire career translating primary sources, and those sources convinced him that something about Sumerian origins doesn't match the standard narrative. The civilization appeared too suddenly, knew too much, and described things they shouldn't have been able to describe. Mainstream archaeology dismisses this. They say Kramer was old and speculating. They say the sudden appearance of Sumer is just lack of archaeological evidence. The developmental stages existed. We just haven't found them yet. They say ancient people were smarter than we give them credit for and could have figured out advanced mathematics and astronomy through careful observation. But here's what they can't explain. We've been excavating Mesopotamia for 150 years. We have thousands of archaeological sites. We found Neolithic villages from 6000 BCE. We found Sumerian cities from 3500 BCE. We haven't found the transition. We haven't found the intermediate stages. We haven't found the gradual development. It's just not there in the archaeological record. Kramer spent 60 years looking for that evidence. He translated more Sumerian texts than anyone in history. He wanted to find the conventional explanation. His final admission was that the evidence points to something else, a discontinuity, a knowledge transfer from an unknown source, an origin that doesn't fit the model we've been taught. He died in 1990 trying to get people to listen. Not to confirm any particular alternative theory, just to acknowledge that the evidence doesn't support the standard story. That Sumerian civilization represents something archaeology hasn't adequately explained. That the tablets say things that Bronze Age people shouldn't have known. The world's leading expert on ancient Sumer spent his life studying their words. And his final message was these people knew things they shouldn't have known, and we need to figure out how.